the key thing. Let's come back to the subject of the war in Ukraine and tanks. And I'm going to thank Alex for sending me this article through, Breaking Defence. This is an American publication. But here's the headline: Ukraine war leaves the British Army very uncomfortable with future soldier capabilities. A British Defence Committee heard, that was a couple of days ago, about concerns brought on by the war in Ukraine, the state of British tanks, some Ukraine-bound, and a potential recovery for the Ajax reconnaissance vehicle programme. Well, the lady that was speaking to the Defence Committee was Lieutenant General Sharon Nesmith, and she's Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff. Let's have a look at what she had to say. The Eastern European conflict had, in the first instance, caused the Army to reconsider how to address air defence, uncrewed systems, deep fires and intelligence, surveillance targeting, and reconnaissance ISTAR capability gaps. That's just about everything, Mike.
Yep.
All of a sudden, she's worried about everything. Let's carry on. In an attempt to fix the problems, the service, the British Army, has already completed a, quote, internal balance of investment and continues to look for opportunities to accelerate procurement. But the new approach could be troubled by two realistic constraints: supply chain difficulties and industrial capacity. So this is not looking too good. She says there is a lot regarding our industrial capacity to focus on, and recognition that we've not invested in the land industrial base as we would now wish to. What's she talking about? It is difficult to understand her from the language she's using. Basically, she's saying that she has worked out that we haven't got an arms industry. We can't supply the ammunition to ourselves. We can't supply it to Ukraine. We don't have modern tanks. We don't have modern reconnaissance vehicles. Altogether, the army is in a complete mess and is unable to put a full army on the battlefield. So if we have a look at this lady, we can go to British Army, be the best. And here's a little CV. It says, whilst in command, she's been responsible for providing information and communication services, command support and capability development in support of formation headquarters up to and including Allied Rapid Reaction Corps and the UK Joint Force Headquarters, higher command appointments with the 1st UK Signal Brigade and General Officer Command of the Army Recruiting and Initial Training Command. So she's had fingers in every important pie, but particularly capability development and recruiting, both of which are in a complete mess. And if we just pop that back on screen again, we've got staff appointments are focused on capability development, which is in a mess, resource planning, which is in a mess, and personnel. So a lot of questions to be asked about this lady and her colleagues. Let's have a look at this future soldier concept. Here's the document, and if we have a look at the contents, why do we need future soldier? What does it mean for our people? How will we be structured? And this initiative from November 2021, supported by a 41 billion procurement package, which we're now being told has been a complete and utter failure. Why has it failed? Well, if we get into the document itself, and I encourage people to find it and read it on the internet, what you will see is this is nothing about creating a fighting army. This is a woke agenda which is actually designed to destroy the army from the inside. And let's look at the first priority. The impact of climate change also forces us to examine how we operate. So before we discuss an army and what that army should be doing, the priority is actually climate change. So it's no wonder that we've now got the military and the British Army in such a mess. But if we go further into the document about how we will be structured, this is not about putting a mere 20,000 men onto some battlefield, because according to this document, the British Army is going to be operating worldwide. This is clearly not a national doctrine. This is an international, and I'm going to suggest a globalist doctrine. But the reality is that the war in Ukraine has now said that the British Army is outclassed, outgunned, and incapable of fighting modern warfare of scale. And that is why she has had to make those admissions to that committee. So if we put this together and come in at a slightly different angle, we've just seen the World Economic Forum. This, to me, seems to be the globalist agenda with a reality sting. And if we do it in a few bullet points, the British Army, as well as the Navy and the Air Force, have been cut to achieve parity with EU forces in preparation for the EU military. That's been disrupted by Brexit, but it's never fully gone away. The British military was deliberately undermined with a woke agenda of diversity, LGBTQ, climate change. There's a lot more. This is the World Economic Forum style transformation agenda. We've got British industry undermined to destroy national defence capability and create this constant EU partnership working. So British steel cut and given away, specialist steel destroyed, Royal Ordnance shut down, ship, aircraft, helicopter, tank, missile and armaments production has been decimated. But this is the reality of the sting. It was the globalists, the transnationalists, that believed they could use Ukraine to fight and win their proxy war for regime change in Russia, apologies for the typo there, on the basis of Ukrainian lives and Western military technology. But their plan destroyed the military basis, which they thought they were going to be using to back Ukraine. So, Alex, I don't know whether you want to comment on that. You may not agree with the angle I've come in at, but if we look at why the British military is in such a mess, to my mind, it's very clear because Britain itself is not acting as a nation state. It's now been subsumed under a wider globalist agenda.
I do agree with you, Brian. It's concordant with all the reporting we've done for several years, the folly of the British government thinking that nothing was wrong because it's retained the golden share in our 2 or 3 remaining important defence manufacturers. They got transatlanticized. Often the Brexit inclined press and social media have blamed the Continentals for everything that's gone on in the last few years. But wherever you look further, you see the City of London. For example, as I mentioned recently on air, Cameron pressing Juncker back in 2014 for the concept of a British EU membership referendum. Why was it necessitated? Not because the Continentals were getting impatient with their military unification, quite the opposite. They were prepared to play the long, slow game as they had done for decades. No, the City of London was telling Cameron that what they were hearing from Britain and America, from the key shareholders in the system, was that Britain was dragging its feet in creating the transnational and transformational agenda in the military, or using the military as a pretext. Therefore, Britain had to shape up or ship out. So it was the City of London that forced Cameron to precipitate the matter, to force Juncker's hand. And afterwards, from very reliable sources, I know that Juncker looked Cameron in the eye and said, well, why did you assure me that you would be able to win this referendum, David?
Yeah.